Today's long-awaited video has been sponsored by Skillshare. First 500 people to sign up with the link at the top of the description will get 2 months free. Well, no, that can't be right. That's way too good of a deal. Nope, that is what it says. Wow. This movie exists because Raimi was all but checked out after the studio's meddling on 3 and Tobey Maguire's back couldn't handle another romp in the suit. Okay, elephant in the room. This is an important movie for the zeitgeist, so expect some subtle and not so subtle responses. As salty and wet blankety as you can handle. Nothing like Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt on screen together to let you know we're in the past. Did you know Murray the dog's real name was Maui? You do now. One key thing that separates the Amazing Spider-Man from OG is the parents' mystery. And maybe it's not what we're used to, but they set up and mostly teased their story in this one and then ran it through to 2. So, kudos for that. The shins are always a win.
Are you busy Friday night? Can you take pictures of my boyfriend's car?
It's almost a cliche at this point to say Maguire understood Parker, Garfield understood Spidey, but Garfield was too cool for Parker. And I'm not seeing that. More on that later.
I thought that was great, what you did out there.
Apparently not amazing, though.
You don't know my name? No, I know your name. I just want to know if you know your name.
Flirting, I think.
Spaghetti.
If you can't eat it keg stand style, what's the point?
Water for the condenser tray or the heat exchange tubing.
The Spider-Verse gave us Peter B. Parker. Amazing gave us Peter B. Smart. The setup for this continuity's Peter Parker is pretty solid. Pretty much everything you need to know about him is established in under 10 minutes. His parents are gone, he's less of an athletic type, more academic, he gets bullied by a giant over-exaggerated walking cliche named Eugene, he at least recognizes that Gwen is a decent person and cares for his well-being, and he's wicked smart about some technical stuff. Weird that nothing about lap dances came up. Also, I can't not mention this. That is a very distinct kickball sound.
Come on, I know a right cross when I see one.
That's an Arya Stark level astute observation. For a movie that gets derided for being an unnecessary pile of garbage, shots like this let me know that the creators did care and were invested in how it came out, which is why it was my teaser frame in John Wick 2 that first time. And a lot of you recognized it immediately, without Peter or anything Spider-Man related, just the briefcase, which I like to think means something.
Plumbers don't fix appliances.
You know, Julia found that out recently. So that's like a plumber lesson and a general repair contractor lesson.
You know what that is?
Some guy who worked with your dad, I guess.
Why, that's Xenophilius Lovegood. How could you not recognize him? People who are ruining this reference by not appearing in Harry Potter? Guy who looks like Sirius Black. Nailed it. High school kid has a rear window poster. Kind of like the 400 Blows poster I had. Because cinephiles are sometimes born young and don't really understand the word pretentious yet. Also, to be fair, had a really cool French language teacher who must have also been a cinephile now that I think about it. Thanks, Mrs. Murphy. Sorry, Madame Murphy. Je me souviens de tout. Pas vraiment. Also, while being a petty nitpicker, Peter is a photographer, so the idea that he respects Alfred Hitchcock, the man who invented the dolly zoom, not that far-fetched. And if you've ever seen Rear Window, you know it's about voyeurism and watching people, something Peter would potentially connect with. But also as set dressing for a character, it's perfect. Hey look! Uncle Ben is fiddling with the Rubik's Cube. That must be why it's messed up when he puts it back down.
Kurt Connors.
Something of a cliche dodge. Easy way to get some manufactured tension. But Uncle Ben comes clean right away because that's more the relationship they have. Ha! Splice of life. Even experimental geneticists aren't above some good wordplay. Ooh, webpage to live action transition. Nice.
Are you having trouble finding yourself?
You could say he hasn't even begun to scratch the surface. Yeah, that's zombies, not spiders. He hasn't even begun to bite the skin.
And yes, in case you're wondering, I'm a southpaw.
Everyone is looking at this kid, which is actually believable because a bunch of high schoolers would probably be slightly uncomfortable with Dr. Connors drawing attention to his arm.
Second, you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure.
See, the implication is that Gwen is first in the class, i.e. why she'd definitely be head intern of a group of 24. And also, while we're talking about dumb things, to call her his love interest at this point isn't really paying attention. Peter isn't suave enough to feign not knowing her name. He really wasn't sure. This is one of the things that add to his love for her, almost like real life. Best IRL version of Rhino I know of. Look at that, 2 button taps and 2 finger slides. It would take some kind of genius to replicate that. All right, I'm gonna chill a little. But come on, it's 2 perpendicular swipes to the same location. That's a hard nope. Still a nope. Some of you might be thinking, where did that skateboard come from? Well, he walked in with it and then checked his board and bag with security as buildings like this often require. Well, that's just the coolest little detail. A few frames of his eventual emblem. Spidey sense. Weirdest editing choices, but still fun Spidey sense. Complaints about this movie aside, you've got to admit that his movements are, well, they're spidery. This whole sequence is kind of a goofy explanation of how weird it is that Spider-Man never really learns to fight. You know, he doesn't really have to because his senses are so heightened that normal humans are just non-threats to him. Just imagine it's you in this subway, but with like really tall 2-year-olds coming after you. If you step too quickly to one side, they may not be sure you even exist anymore. What? Spider-Man flies, spiders like flies. You get it.
This beats all other meatloafs.
Compliments.
Didn't you tell me you didn't like my meatloaf?
I don't know, I feel like it's more of a nobody really likes meatloaf type situation, but good for Ben coming clean after all these years. I said nope. It's a funny montage of Peter realizing he has powers, but it plays so well into what some of us were just talking about on Twitter. I just feel like the likelihood of Peter not accidentally killing someone, namely Flash, is just about impossible. Also, a breaking all your crap montage is the fastest way to flood the entire house. Seriously, Peter, putting a towel over that does not stop the water from flowing. The startling nature of his heightened senses from Spidey's sense is captured expertly. It's not all climbing walls and dating redheads or blondes. Who can keep up?
Gonna change the lives of millions.
Just want to point out that Connor's initial goal was changing the world and helping people like him, so his plan in the end isn't totally out of left field. Oh, Nigel the leg gruff. I see those loan sharks finally got to you.
You did that on purpose, Flash!
No, but I should have. You better watch your back.
And to be honest, I think we were all hoping for a little accidental, oops, you're dead now, Flash. Maybe Garfield is a teensy bit too cool for Peter. This is still satisfying. But they always have to take it just a little too far. What the? That's Ashley Howard. Or okay, Maya from 22 Jump Street. Spider-Man movies have a knack for finding talented extras. I just outed myself for watching Greek.
She's the girl on your computer.
Discretion.
He's got you on his computer.
And helpfulness.
I'm not gonna answer that.
But now I'm gonna bring it back to him being too cool for school. He's not with Gwen. Just because it works doesn't mean he had anything to do with it. She likes him, so he can literally say nothing and still get a date. That's the point.
You want to, I don't know,
Want what?
I don't know, we could, or we could do something else, or we could, if you don't, I mean, like, we could,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, either one.
Got some twofold visual storytelling here. Peter is flying high after a positive interaction with Gwen, and he's finally got a chance to mess around and test his powers. It's Coldplay. It's 2012. What do you want? And while nothing is ever going to touch Toby's first time trying out his powers, they went in a very different direction and it works. He sort of extends his skills he has as a skateboarder and then accidentally finds out how his powers work. And you know, I don't think I've ever really put that together. I get that swinging on webs is what spiders do, but to see it visually and to turn it into inspiration for him, I'm into it.
Cure polio in an afternoon. What if the device were loaded with a toxin? What if you wanted to opt out?
Connors even gets the problems with it. Honestly, the biggest failure may have been separating the two personas more distinctly. No one in comics stays dead except Uncle Ben. And I know that anyone unfamiliar with the comics was thinking, wait, so not only are we getting an origin reboot 10 years later, it's exactly the same? Right down to a low-level criminal that Peter could have stopped killing Uncle Ben? Granted, Lowell was retconned into doing it by the end. But this is that poignant moment right from Spidey's first comic origin that cements the famous line.
That if you could do good things for other people, you had a moral obligation to do those things.
And I actually appreciate that the great is taken out of this iteration. That means we're all on the hook, shown by a man with no great power doing what he can, even if it causes his death. Also, something that isn't present in every film, or even in the entirety of this film, but I just want to point out some cause and effect storytelling that's fully fleshed out leading to this point. And no matter how you shake it, this is Peter's fault. Peter was reckless with his power, which forced Uncle Ben to leave work, meaning Peter had to pick up Aunt May. However, those instructions were given to Peter right before Ben embarrassed him a tad, and then he got a date, which would be distracting. Then he tries out his powers, also distracting, and goes to see his mentor, the only real connection to his father's work, who he assists in growing a limb back on a mouse. So Peter forgets about Aunt May, gets into an argument with his uncle, and after an annoying interchange with a disgruntled employee, does nothing when he could have done something. That directly leads to Uncle Ben's death. But this outcome was set in motion the moment he exploited his power, in arguably a way every teenager would. I wouldn't plan on breaking the backboard. Also, what's with the traveling, Peter? Sorry. Ugh. You'd be feeling so many emotions. Angry, obviously, and then someone you're always angry with shows pity on you? It hurts, but it also makes you want to sob uncontrollably. And Flash's genuine condolences get you in the soft spot. hugging. Aww. Again, Peter constantly throws his legs up, which is so reminiscent of those early comics and the spider-like movements. I'm not saying Tobey didn't have them, but they're exaggerated into his parkour here.
I've seen your face!
He knows what he has to do now. Complete facial reconstruction surgery. It's the only way. We get a more stretched out dark origin for Spidey this time. He's beating up criminals, sure, but not out of any sense of altruism. It's about revenge. Cut censoring. But it sounds like he was gonna say Hubbard. Good stuff. I sort of miss Tobey's gross body horror web shooters, but reintroducing the mechanical shooters allows Peter's genius to be a little more deliberate and comic accurate. Finally, some Spidey action, even if he hasn't worked out all the bugs. And when you don't know what he's swinging from, just assume there's a helicopter. As a former screen printer, I resent the idea that anyone could get the coat thickness of that emulsion,
or exposure time correct, or even have the right intensity UV bulb to burn the screen on their first try. What mesh are you using there, Peter? Also, nice job clearing that screen.
Where are all my screen printers at? Okay, fine. Maybe Peter Parker could handle it. After all, he did go online and order webbing for his web shooters. Joking aside, giving us our first real POV Spidey moment. This is pretty spectacular. The swelling score of a superhero cut short by the reminder that he's still just a kid.
Eggs? Organic, got it.
Pretty easy to assume that Peter snuck in the car when the robber turned around there. He'd obviously been following him. He offers this bit of advice.
Don't dress like a car thief, man.
Also, as much as Peter is still goofing around and messing with this robber, this scene is presented more like horror with Spidey as the villain. He's almost a bully, or worse.
Hey, watch out! I'm swinging here! I'm swinging here!
Dustin Hoffman quote aside, Peter's first real swinging scene is done live action, which obviously makes this scene feel real, since it is. These character moments always elevate this movie. I hope we can all agree that Andrew Garfield is a heck of an actor, and Sally Field, well, duh. Reese Ifans is really overqualified for this role anyway, but then you get him selling this phantom limb scene. Ugh. Apparently he tied one arm behind his back for weeks to prepare for this role, and James Horner's score really captures Connor's internal conflict with the hope that it's gonna all turn out all right.
I feel like Branzino.
Well, is it fresh? That's really all that matters. Also, is the implication that Flash was like dissing Gwen's mom's meal?
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry if I insulted you. That was not my intention.
You're welcome.
I don't know if it's his previous roles or if Dennis Leary just exudes terror in a very condescending way. But hoo-hoo-hoo-wee. The only girlfriend's dad that outdoes Captain Stacy is obviously Keaton's Vulture.
I've been bitten.
So have I.
This relationship might be built on misunderstandings.
You have your suit in there?
My suit?
But they're just sweet together. Again, so glad she goes on to live a long and happy life with Peter Parker.
I wish I could just... I can't. It's hard to say.
Again, I feel like maybe we all got duped by a few loud people saying Peter is some Casanova cool kid, including myself. Goodness, he can't help that he's good looking, but he consistently fumbles over his words like a goofball. Is this charming? This wouldn't be charming for most people. Only really in a pitiful way like, oh, look at the three-legged puppy. And that was Spider-Man, not Peter. Nice way of revealing your secret.
Shut up.
Did she just name him? Someone's got to do it. Might as well be someone he loves.
I'm in trouble.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Find out what's going on, Alfred.
Khan's driver, Alfred, who is bizarrely credited as Alfie, is the carjacker from OG Spider-Man. Apparently the fall wasn't that big a deal. And Masrani immediately went to work for InGen since he was never heard from or seen again in the Spider-Man universe.
Help me, my kid is trapped!
Who better to remind Peter he should stay golden and finally choose saving someone over avenging someone? Peter risks his identity to help a kid not be terrified and then also encourages the kid to use that mask to embolden him as well. Yep, to that shot. Saving Jack one more time. And how poignant is it that because of the decision he makes between going after the bad guy or protecting the innocent, Peter gets to save a proxy of himself only to be reminded that he never had that relationship with his father.
They react to sudden changes in temperatures.
Liquid nitrogen shadowing?
I'll be back.
Nothing is ever going to rival We'll Meet Again Spider-Man, but I love that the campiness hasn't been completely dropped, even if this is a slightly darker take on Spidey.
I know who it is.
And as a Spider-Man who started out just beating up long-haired crooks, this is a sign that Peter is learning and even took in what Captain Stacy said at dinner as well as what Gwen said on the bleachers. Maybe realizing he doesn't know everything and going to the cops is the right move.
It was beautiful. When I read it, I cried.
The most unbelievable thing in a movie about giant lizards and spider people is Tommy Gavin admitting to crying. Just a classic Spidey moment. And then Peter uses the web just like a spider does, waiting for vibrations.
I'm getting stronger every day!
That's pretty brutal. Yeah, I doubt he planned on being underwater trying to use his web shooters.
Oh, that sucked.
Honesty.
To live in a chocolate house.
Well, that's impractical. And fattening.
Nutrition lessons?
I've cramps.
Ah, the universal dad deterrent. Lady troubles. But I will say that her dad's response isn't so over the top. Plus, he was offering her hot chocolate, another sign of their strong relationship.
Cocoa, Howard's making some cocoa.
Andrew Garfield's workout routine. Apparently, Dr. Connors is something of a scientist himself. This is the action set piece that always stands out in everyone's minds, and for good reason. It's an excellent showcase of each of their combat styles and plays into how a lizard would attack using its tail while Peter is always clinging to things like a spider. And Gwen Stacy's spine was never the same again. Still glad Peter learned his lesson. See, the Watcher informant knew Spidey would save him, otherwise he would have ducked. Stan Lee is always a win.
It's a blue serum.
Okay, got it.
Gwen is Peter's guy in the chair. I like it.
This is my gift to you.
It actually makes sense to leave the video explaining why you did what you did for whoever finds your lair in case you die. I mean, it's literally a message to all the people he's about to infect explaining himself. This wasn't Peter getting stupid lucky. Connors left this on purpose. This just took a brutal turn. Teenage Mutant Spider-Man.
That is an order, okay?
I'm gonna get everybody out.
It's like he doesn't even know there's a dimension with Spider-Gwen. She's capable, bro. I have to say, I'm not sure if it's Raimi's influence or what, but Mark Webb, who was really a music video turned indie director, got a lot of the horror beats done well. Apparently a bullet to the leg is Spider-Man's kryptonite? In my first Spider-Man video for the 2002... copyright claimed. I didn't even know it. Anyway, something I missed but a lot of you picked up on was that ending scene where all the New Yorkers are standing up for Spider-Man and how it was such a powerful moment because it was 2002, 1 year after 9/11. So seeing New Yorkers come together to fight evil was satisfying and probably cathartic for a lot of people. Ironically, that was a pretty small-scale threat at the time, and Goblin was really just going after Peter even if a few busloads of kids got caught in the crossfire. Right? Isn't that what happened? It was a gondola. Anyway, this time it's an attack on the entire city. And even if they don't know it, Spider-Man's heroic act of saving Ponyboy's son Jack had a ripple effect of New York again sticking up for and helping out Spider-Man. It's just a simple but beautiful display of paying it forward. And I don't know, maybe he hasn't quite earned this in the hearts of the people, but gosh dang it, is this a chills emotional build-up moment? I will give the Amazing series a slight edge over Raimi's in fast-paced, stressful action scenes. In addition to adding to Peter's intellect and engineering prowess, it gives him another weakness when his web shooters can be disabled.
Poor Peter Parker.
Cocky Curtis Connors. Teamwork. Oh, now, see, that's the hand he got back, so now you've made him mad. Almost a blue beam to space, but it comes back down. For a finale, it's thrilling, full of some solid CG, ends on a redemptive note for Connors as well as Captain Stacy's death, hitting you hard while also giving you the warm fuzzies because he came to accept and appreciate the importance of Spider-Man in the end. And with his last breath, looks to protect his daughter. And a mostly silent yell to bring it all home. One of the things that Gwen confided in him that she was scared of, and now he can't even be there for her because of his promise. Literally behind bars with the window blinds. Peter, she said organic eggs. Organic and cage-free are not the same.
While cage-free are treated better, they're still pumped full of antibiotics.
And that's been your egg buying lesson of the week.
He made you promise, didn't he?
Intuition? But also, if I'm being honest, it's a glimpse into a relationship with her father that she'd expect that from him and makes it sting all a little more. Not to mention Emma Stone crushing us with those Disney eyes. You see, that's an extension ladder. Usually when you paint things, you like to start at the top and work your way down, so once you're done, the ladder would be either at its lowest or just lower than needed, so it's more stable and closer to the wall. Subtle hint that Peter is going so far out of his way to stay away from Gwen, he won't even walk near her on the way to class, making him late, even if he undoes it in 5 seconds.
Don't make promises you can't keep, Mr. Parker.
Yeah, but those are the best kind.
High schoolers, man. Love. Yep. I'm telling you, visually, specifically shot composition and set piece creation, this movie stepped up its game. And web slinging is as fun as it ever was in these scenes. Holy cow. Did anyone know this movie had a post-credits scene? It appears to be teasing Electro, but That ain't no Jamie Foxx. So I poked a little extra hard this week. Something I don't like to do a lot because I want this channel to be a place to talk about the good side of everything. This being the movie that launched 1,000 channels, I remembered it more lighthearted and objective. I guess the truth is that the lines between joke, real problem with the movie, deliberately false, and just mistake have always been a little blurry. Take that for whatever it means for you. But it's all just in good fun, so let's talk about the movie. I think my biggest complaint is the similarities to Raimi's first Spider-Man. I can sort of excuse a lack of faith in the audience, but also the Avengers and The Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012. I feel like we were proving that not only did we like comic book movies, we were capable of following along with a broader story. At the same time, 13 to 20-year-olds, probably the most significant target demo in 2012, would have been 3 to 10 when Raimi's first origin story was in theaters. So maybe it was a disservice to those kids to not get to see PD get bit? I keep joking with my friends that this would be a much better movie if 2002 didn't exist, but still, story elements were added and we got these sweet POV Spidey shots. I found Gwen to be about as developed as MJ was. I do enjoy that she had more agency than MJ usually did, and the chemistry between these two is solid. But let's do a little defense of the indefensible, shall we? Because after the amount of dumb stuff I had to address, I'm in the mood. People have a lot of problems with the story, and I'll admit that plot threads at least appear to be dropped, and it should have been handled better. But the two biggest, Brigitte Rotha's character disappearing after the car attack, and Peter just abandoning his search for his uncle's killer, are both the result of shifting motivations. Again, both stories should have been wrapped up on screen or with some dialogue, and I think one of them was in a deleted scene. But Connors no longer cares about Osborn or Oscorp or anything and anyone related to either. His plan, albeit twisted by the lizard brain, becomes make everyone equal with the lizard gas. And then, through Captain Stacy's speech, Peter realizes he doesn't see the whole picture and that what he thought was a
public service
really boiled down to being an amateur
assaulting civilians in the dead of night.
That, together with Peter's turn on the bridge, makes him realize revenge isn't the path he wants to go down. So they're dangling threads, but not without reason. Mark Webb has touched on the real focal message from this incarnation of Spidey, essentially being his effect on people. It's sort of an extrapolation of Uncle Ben's influence on Peter. Peter is lost at the beginning of this movie. Gaining powers really only shines a light on his issues. Ben's message to normal, unpowered Peter, and then Peter's defiant refusals to heed it are what caused Ben's death. Then he continues down a less than heroic path until he's confronted with a choice. In that moment, his decision inspires Jack to climb out of the car himself, specifically because Peter shows Jack he's just a regular guy. That Spider-Man is just a regular guy. And then the father of the child he saves is inspired in the end to take what little power he has to stand up to evil by helping Peter out. The final example is Connor's turn at the end. Even after being thwarted by Peter, he still chooses to save him. That's the power of Spider-Man's influence. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a flawless Spider-Man movie, just that its problems don't have anything to do with Rubik's Cubes. But if you are still confused by how it's possible that someone could pick up a solved Rubik's Cube, play with it, and place it back down unsolved, I have some good news for you. Today's sponsor, Skillshare, has just the course for you. I'm actually going through it right now to see if I can get my solve time down. Mike Boyd, fellow YouTuber and teacher, has a class teaching you exactly how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And it's the same method I learned years ago, but simplified with ways to improve your skill. And if you didn't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with over 25,000 classes from Rubik's Cubes to business, technology, just about every creative endeavor you can think of, and so much more. And an annual unlimited subscription is less than $10 a month. But, like I said earlier, the first 500 of my fans to sign up at the link on screen, also in the description, will get the first 2 months for free. So check out Mike's class or browse around. You've got 2 months to find some stuff you like. The link is in the description. It's always a help to the channel, and I know you'll get a lot out of it as well. I've been using Skillshare for a few years now, and they're always adding new courses to help me better do what I do. Check it out.
I like sitting next to you, Sean. Makes me look so tough.